September 12, 1897. The northwest frontier of British India, a land where mountains rise like ancient sentinels and the sun bakes the earth in a dusty, relentless glare. Here the Samana Range sprawls between Fort Lockhart and Fort Gulistan, two outposts perched like lonely watchmen on the edge of empire. In between them, halfway up the rugged slopes and battered by wind and time, stands a tiny post, Saragarhi. Not a fortress, not a grand citadel, just a modest signaling station, with walls of rough stone and a handful of determined men inside. Saragarhi's simple but vital job is to keep Lockhart and Gulistan talking. In these wild days, there's no radio, no wires, no Wi-Fi. Just sunlight, mirrors, and the stubborn persistence of its 21 Sikh soldiers. Messages flash across the miles, bouncing off polished glass, relaying orders, warnings, and news of the outside world. For the men on duty, every reflection is a lifeline, a thread tying them to comrades and command. But on this morning, the thread is about to be tested beyond anything they could imagine. As the sun climbs higher and the wind stirs the dust, something shifts on the horizon. From the far ridges, dark shapes begin to move, thousands of tribal warriors massing like storm clouds against the pale sky. Afridi and Orakzai, fierce, proud, and determined to erase Saragarhi from the map. Some say there were 10,000, others count as many as 24,000. The numbers swirl in legend, but one fact remains: the defenders are outnumbered hundreds to one. Facing this tidal wave are Havildar Ishar Singh and his 20 fellow soldiers. Not professional heroes from the pages of history books, but everyday men, farmers and sons and friends, pulled from villages across Punjab to serve on the frontier. Today, they are the line between chaos and order, between the forts and the tribes, between survival and oblivion. Picture the Sikh version of 300, minus the Hollywood abs and stylized fanfare, just grit, determination, and faith. The tribal forces encircle the post, war drums echoing off the rocks, battle cries rising like thunder. The defenders know what's coming. They take up positions behind the walls, loading rifles, setting their resolve. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Only one choice: stand and fight. The attack begins. Waves of warriors surge against the defenses, bullets and arrows whistling through the air. The Sikh soldiers return fire with steady discipline, each shot measured, each command barked with urgency. Smoke billows from the parapets, sunlight glinting off spent cartridges. 6 relentless hours pass, an eternity measured in heartbeats and gunfire. Outnumbered, outgunned, and, as the day wears on, running desperately low on ammunition. But they do not falter. Every bullet they fire, every moment they hold, buys precious time for the nearby forts, time to prepare, to reinforce, to send urgent signals up and down the line. Saragarhi's defense is not just a last stand, it's a beacon, warning the garrisons of what's coming and giving them a fighting chance to hold the frontier. Inside the battered walls, men fall, wounded or dead, but the resolve never cracks. Havildar Ishar Singh leads with fierce pride, rallying his comrades, refusing to yield. The attackers, sensing their own rising losses, press harder, trying to breach the defenses. The defenders respond with volleys of fire, shouted prayers, and the iron will that has defined the Sikh soldier for centuries. Amid the chaos, Sepoy Gurmukh Singh keeps watch at the heliograph, the signaling mirror, their only link to the outside world. Even as the walls crumble and attackers swarm, he flashes messages to Fort Lockhart, reports of the assault, requests for help, grim updates as ammunition dwindles. His final message, sent as the post is overrun, is simple and profound. Low on ammo, God is the ultimate truth. In those words, courage and faith mingle, defiant even in the face of death. Moments later, Saragarhi falls. The attackers swarm through the ruins, victory claimed at a terrible cost. But the story does not end in silence. The defenders' sacrifice echoes across the mountains, reaching the ears of comrades and commanders, stirring hearts far beyond the frontier. In the aftermath, the scale of the defense becomes clear. Every one of the 21 soldiers is posthumously awarded the Indian Order of Merit, the highest gallantry honor of the time, reserved for acts of extraordinary bravery. Their names are carved into memory, their deeds retold across generations. Today, Saragarhi Day is observed every September 12th, a moment to honor not just the fallen, but the values they embodied: duty, courage, and the willingness to stand one's ground no matter the odds. The legacy of Saragarhi endures in stone and spirit. The Saragarhi Memorial Gurudwara rises on the site, a place of pilgrimage for Sikhs and soldiers, a shrine to the power of sacrifice. Portraits of the 21 heroes hang in quiet reverence, faces fading in and out of sunlight as if still watching over the frontier. Visitors come to pay respects, drawn by the story of men who refused to surrender, whose bravery has become a lesson for all who follow. Yet for all its solemnity, there's a light-hearted side to the legend. Picture a campfire somewhere, flames flickering as friends gather close. Someone leans in, voice low, eyes sparkling. You ever hear about those 21 guys who held off 10,000 attackers? Heads shake, laughter bubbles. No memes, no retakes, just pure grit. That's not a bar story, that's a legend. Imagine telling that tale to your friends. Yeah, I held off 10,000 guys with 20 mates. It's the kind of story that grows with every retelling, bigger than life, more outrageous with each laugh. But underneath the exaggeration lies a core of truth, a reminder that sometimes the impossible is just another name for the unyielding. Saragarhi's lesson is not just for soldiers or historians. It's for anyone who faces overwhelming odds, anyone who stands up for what they believe in, anyone who refuses to back down when the world says retreat. It's a story about courage, yes, but also about teamwork, faith, and the belief that a handful of determined souls can shape the course of history. So, if this story gave you goosebumps, if it made you sit a little straighter, think a little deeper, remember the men of Saragarhi. Share their tale with someone who needs to know what bravery looks like. Let their example inspire you, challenge you, remind you that legends aren't born in comfort, but in the crucible of adversity. Because somewhere, out there, another frontier waits, another challenge rises, and another group of determined souls will be called to stand, to fight, and, if necessary, to sacrifice. The story of Saragarhi lives on, not just in memorials and medals, but in the hearts of all who dream of making a difference. Every September 12, the world remembers the 21. But every day their spirit endures. Whenever someone stands up for what's right, faces down the odds, or simply refuses to quit. That is the legacy of Saragarhi. That is what standing your ground really means. As you reflect on this story, picture the rugged mountains, the battered walls, the flash of sunlight on mirrors, the roar of battle, and the quiet dignity of those who gave everything. Remember their names, their faces, their courage. Let the memory guide you, inspire you, push you to be brave in your own way. And if you're ready for more legends, more stories of grit and heroism, of laughter and loss, of victory snatched from the jaws of defeat, stay tuned. Because history is full of incredible tales, waiting to be told, waiting to be heard, waiting to remind us of what we're capable of. So go ahead, share this story, pass it on. Keep the legend alive, not just in words, but in deeds. And never forget the lesson of Saragarhi, that no matter how small the outpost, how few the defenders, or how steep the odds, courage can change the world. Now, as the dust settles and the echoes fade, take a moment to honor those who stood their ground. The men of Saragarhi. Their story is more than history. It's a challenge, a call, a reminder that the bravest battles are sometimes fought in the smallest places, by the most unlikely heroes. If this tale moved you, if it made your heart beat a little faster, if you found yourself rooting for the underdogs, share the feeling. Send it to someone who could use a little inspiration. A little reminder that bravery comes in all shapes and sizes. And if you want more stories like this, more legends, more lessons, stick around. There's a whole world of courage out there, just waiting to be discovered. Let's keep the spirit of Saragarhi alive. Let's celebrate courage wherever we find it. And let's never forget that sometimes 21 can stand against 10,000 and change history forever. Now close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself on that frontier. The sun is hot, the wind is fierce, and danger is everywhere. Would you stand your ground? Would you fight for your friends, your duty, your honor? The men of Saragarhi did, and in doing so, they wrote their names into legend. Let their story be a guide, a beacon shining through the dust and darkness, lighting the way for all who follow. Let it remind you that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to stand firm despite it. And let it inspire you to be brave in your own life, whatever battles you face. Because in the end, that's what legends are for. Not just to be remembered, but to be lived. So here's to Saragarhi, to the 21, to the memory, to the legacy. May we all find a little of their courage within ourselves, and may their story continue to inspire generations yet to come. And if you haven't already, consider joining the community of those who celebrate such legends. Like, share, subscribe, spread the word, keep the fire burning, and help us tell the stories that matter. Because the world will always need heroes. The world will always need legends. And sometimes the bravest heroes are found in the most unlikely places. So until next time, stand tall, stay brave, and remember Saragarhi. The legend lives on.